So now we can get to the business of discussing the matters that we have. We actually have a item agenda for this morning, and the first and of course most important is this issue about the gifts saga, and then the final one, which we will spend just some little time to ask questions about the suspicions that are being raised about, is the president's order for the Interior Ministry to supervise all intelligence agencies. What is the fear about that particular order? Some are raising some issues. Are they genuine? Are they justified? And we have to say happy Father's Day to the president as well, and to all others, the Nana Akufo-Addo, all the statesmen and all fathers indeed. Thank you very much. We trust that everybody is being a very good father. Thank you. Now, we would go to the phone lines and deal with H. Kwesi Prempeh. He leaves us, and then we stay in the studio and do our discussion. But I don't think I have him on the line yet. When we do, okay, I understand that we have H. Kwesi Prempeh on the line. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsfile.
Good morning, Samson, and good morning to your listeners.
Great to have you. Now, I'm sure you have followed, and if nothing at all, you have listened this morning to the investigative piece done by Manasseh Azori-Awene. My question first to you will be, what is your assessment of the value of that investigative piece from where you sit as not just as a lawyer, but with great experience in the matters of conflict of interest that you teach?
Thank you. I think clearly, that piece by your journalist, the Joy journalist, I think it's a really worthy piece of journalism. We certainly would like to see our media and our journalists really being fearless and using the rights that the Constitution bestows on them and the privileges that they have to really advance the public interest. And I think if there is a piece of journalism that has done that in recent times, I think definitely Manasseh's piece would count as one of those. So I definitely think it's an important contribution to our public discourse, as well as the project of advancing and elevating ethics in Ghana. So having said that, certainly there is the investigation raises clear issues about conflicts of interest. There are certain persons who occupy a position we would call a position of trust with respect to other persons, with respect to an organization, or with respect to the state in the case of public officials. We will call those persons fiduciaries or fiduciaries, and those persons owe a fiduciary obligation, which is an obligation to act in the best interest of the person or state or organization to whom they owe a duty. Those persons, those other persons to whom the duty are owed, we would call a principal, right? So where you have a situation of a conflict of interest, when that fiduciary, that person, places himself or herself in a situation where the duty that is owed to his principal comes into conflict, or is likely to come into conflict with either his own interest or the interest of an associated third party. So this is clearly a case. I think that what we have listened to and what we've seen on the videotapes clearly would represent, in fact, as the president's own advisor considered when he was, this situation was rendered to him as a hypothetical, as he himself considered, this would clearly be one of those instances where that public official involved here has essentially walked himself into a conflict of interest situation.
Do you think, Prof, that if Daniel Batidam had the benefits of the information that we now have after the publication,
right,
i.e., some form of documentation of the process, i.e., that the president did not receive this gift personally, but put it in the presidential fleet for the use of the state, and that this is not a car that he uses for his own private benefit. And again, more importantly, that the contractor won all his contracts on merits. Would Daniel Batidam have made the comments he made?
Well, I think that if Daniel Batidam, with the benefit of hindsight, had all of the tape and everything played before him, I suspect he would himself be in a conflict of interest situation as to the kind, of opinion that he would render. I think he would find himself deeply conflicted, and we would all probably be less likely to assign much weight to the final judgment or opinion that he would render, which is why it is best, I think, that this was rendered as a hypothetical. And the hypothetical does capture the essence of the act involved here. The issue that you raised about the use to which the president allegedly or reportedly may have put the vehicle that he received from the contractor, I think just clouds the issue, but it's not really relevant. As I gave the definition, trying to explain what a conflict of interest is, it has nothing to do with what the proceeds of that gift, so to speak, are used for after the fact. Right? We do not want to countenance a Robin Hood situation where you could say, well, I took the gift, but I gave it to the needy or to the poor, or I donated it to Kolebu or that kind of stuff. We really don't want to enter into those kinds of after-the-fact rationalizations or excuses and the like. So the prohibition here is really one of avoidance. Conflict of interest rules are really rules of avoidance. You do not get yourself in that situation. The moment you walk yourself into it, it has occurred already. Right? And in fact, as Justice Short said in the piece, it is not even necessary to prove that the fiduciary was actually improperly influenced. So the conflict of interest happens when you place yourself in that position where your duty to your principal is likely to be compromised. That is it, right? So it's already occurred. What happens after the fact? After you have received, whether you call it a gift or a bribe, what you choose to do with it after the fact really is it's really a secondary matter completely. And it does not cleanse. It does not cleanse the impropriety of the conflict of interest. So the after the fact usage to which you put this, and we are not in a position to tell. I mean, many of these things, in fact, as I think Mr. Batidam himself said, because we have difficulties divining people's motives, the reason they give gifts, the reason they do these things, and the reason that a person chooses to accept a gift, because we don't want to enter into these kinds of mind-reading games. That's why the prohibition is even there as a prophylactic. It's preventative. Does it
also strike you in a way that this may make some difference? The contractor is heard to sound rather, credible in giving the information he's being requested to give. He seems to speak rather, maybe you say naively, and he doesn't see anything wrong that is being done. And he says, look, I got this man, send a delegation to, he's my friend. I got him send a delegation to my father's funeral. And the family decided that we send him this gift, in appreciation. Then the president receives it and doesn't take it to himself. And in fact, it goes through the embassy and there's some sort of documentation. The question people are asking is that when you put all this together, does it not suggest to you that maybe the president is just a victim or it was some indiscretion rather than an intention to do wrong?
Again, it is not conflicts of interest do not arise on the basis of intention, and certainly not the intention of the giver here. We do not, again, want to end up in mind-reading games. We look at the situation. The Burkinabe contractor owes us, as a country, as a Republic of Ghana, he owes us no duty of loyalty. It is the president or the vice president at the time who owes us that duty of loyalty or trust. So what's the contractor may have intended, and what his own explanations are as to why he gave the gift? He's not the one who is accountable to us as a state. It is the vice president, it is the president, it is the public official who is under a duty. And that duty flows automatically. I mean, it's important to make the point that I've heard people say, well, you know, there was no law that... First of all, there are, of course, many conflict of interest avoidance rules in our laws, in our constitution, in our code of ethics and all of that.
Right.
But let me make this point, that conflict of interest avoidance rules are rules that do not flow even out of contract. So when we hire the president, we do not we don't sign a contract with him and say, you may do this, you may not do that, you may not do this, you may not do that. But once he occupies the office, certain duties automatically, by legal implication, flow out of it. And one of those duties for every fiduciary is that you may not serve two masters. You may not put yourself in a position where you are likely to serve the interest of somebody else above the interest of your master, which is the principal. That duty applies to you, Samson, for example. If you are in an employment relationship with multimedia or some contractual relationship with multimedia, they don't even have to tell you that you cannot also do work for your competitor or somebody else whose interest is adverse to the interest of multimedia. That duty flows automatically out of the position. So it is an extra contractual duty. It's a super contractual duty. And in this case, we don't even have to find a code. Even if a code did not exist, the president or the vice president would still be in breach of a fiduciary duty that arises out of his position. So it's not, I mean, I understand these, post hoc attempts to try and figure out, okay, so he took it. And of course, the president is not going to go to the border and receive the car. He can only do this through his functionaries, through his agents. So the fact that somebody else received it and not him, the fact that it went through the embassy, it went through third parties or functionaries, that is, of course, to be expected. We do not expect the vice president himself to be doing the legwork involved in receiving this. The most important thing is that this is a person who is a contractor on a contract with the state. The state's interest when it engages contractors is to get the best deal possible for the country, to get the best price possible, to get the best contractor possible. So when you are placed in a situation where you have dealings with that person with whom we're negotiating on price, on terms, on quality, then our interest is adverse to the interest of that contractor in that situation. That's where the conflict of interest arises.
Yes, but there's a key point. There's a key point you make, and those who disagree, including some lawyers, suggest that, I mean, in criminal jurisprudence, which you are very familiar with, mens rea is a very important thing. And so what the man was thinking when he gave the gifts and what the president was thinking when he received the gift ought to be important in the equation.
Criminal law is not the only source of law. There's tort law, there's contract law, there's agency law, and in fact, fiduciaries are essentially agents. Okay. So agency law is the basis of a lot of this. There are a number of, so this attempt to make everything criminal law, okay, as long as no crime, so to speak, has been committed, then it doesn't matter. No, there are multiple. Even in this case, we're even talking the common law. There are many, many duties that arise out of the common law that even between strangers, you may not walk out today and slap somebody in the face because, you just don't like them. There is a certain duty you have breached, which you do not have that right to go and harm them. It is not written, it may not be, even if it's not part of our common law, even if it's not part of our criminal law, it's a tort duty that you have breached. In this case, like I said, this duty arises out of position. The moment you place yourself in a position of trust, certain duties are implied from that office, from that trust, position of trust. And they do not have to rise to the level of crimes. So menswear has no place here. And I think that...
So when will the president, or when will a public officer like the president be out of conflict of interest in dealing with their friends as far as exchange of gifts are concerned? Ivor Green Street has asked a question, and I think it's very, it just comes on the top of one's head, that the president is bereaved presently. People may make donations. Will that be seen as seeking to influence him? Will that be conflict of interest?
Very good question. The answer to your first question, is simply that there are two ways in which the conflict of interest may arise. It can arise by you walking into it. By you walking into it means that you already have a pre-existing duty to your principal, and then you take on another one that is likely to conflict with that duty. Then you walk yourself into it. And in that situation, the rule is one of avoidance. Thou shalt not walk yourself into a conflict of interest situation. The second situation is where the conflict of interest comes to you. Your interest already pre-exists this other one, and then it comes to you. So, for example, if I own a piece of property, I'm a public officer, I own a piece of property, my interest is, I have an interest in this property, and the state comes to me and says, oh, we are interested in your property. We're interested in renting it. Well, in that case, I didn't walk myself into the conflict of interest situation, but it came to me. So in that situation, avoidance is already not possible because it happened. When it happens, it comes to you, you make full disclosure. Right? So you make full, or if somebody comes to you, a realtor comes to you, and somebody says, I want you to be my realtor in this transaction, and you say, look, this thing you want, it actually belongs to me. So you make full disclosure of your interest, and possible you recuse yourself. So depending on how the conflict of interest arises, that's what you do. The situation you've given, the president has a funeral. Context matters. I have heard people raise our customary gift-giving culture as part of the excuse here. Of course, it doesn't fly, right? When a president visits, ministers and presidents and other functionaries go around the country and pay customary visits to chiefs and queens and others. As part of the customary protocol, they may be given gifts. And as Justice Short rightly said, these gifts are usually de minimis gifts. I mean, of small and inconsequential value. They are also not given by persons who are in an adverse relationship to the state or to the public official. They are not in a transactional relationship to the state who are expecting certain things from the state. And also they are done in the open, in full glare of the public, other witnesses, and the transparency matters. Because if you want to even bring in the question of intention, the transparency is what usually actually gives a certain context to intention. If you want to draw in intention at all, if you really do not intend a gift to be an improper influence, you don't do it behind the scene, and you don't do it, you do it openly. Everybody sees it, and they can apprise themselves of
my final question to you, Prof. My final question to you, Prof, will be, there are those who say, we've heard the PPP suggest, for example, the Progressive People's Party suggests that if the president does not resign, they may contemplate as it were, going to court about this. I don't know how exactly they intend to frame what they will put in the law court, but the NPP minority in Parliament has also suggested that this may be constitute grounds for impeachment, and the constitutional provisions are quite clear about them. What should happen to the president on the basis of your verdict?
Well, there's clearly, of course, the president's office is not purely a legal office. It is a political office. And under our constitution also, we do have a presidential sort of system where the president has a fixed term of office, can only be removed by impeachment or resignation or of course, or by death. Certainly, it is not easy. Legal records here, in this situation, I don't essentially see how that works. I mean, I also want to make the point, though, that apart from the explicit conflict of interest avoidance rule in Article 284, there are conflict of interest principles embedded in certain other provisions of the Constitution, especially one that applies to the president. Remember, there's a provision of the Constitution that says the president, and I'm not saying that this applies in this particular instance, I'm just giving you an example of the thinking about conflict of interest that's embedded in our Constitution. There is this other provision that says the president, while he holds office or even after leaving office, may not hold any other office or profit.
That's right. That's right.
One of the reasons for that is that we do not want the president, while he is the number one public official and owes the duty of trust to the Republic of Ghana, to be influenced in his judgment transactionally about the prospect of becoming a board member for a private company or getting into a kind of another job with another company after he leaves office. We don't, apart from trying to protect the dignity of the president, we also do not want, while he is in office, to be influenced by sort of post-retirement profit opportunities.
I see.
So there is a conflict of interest provision there. There's also the one that says parties may not take money from foreigners. Again, we want their loyalty to be to the Republic and people of Ghana, not to foreign entities. So there is a conflict of interest avoidance rule throughout these provisions in our Constitution. I think that clearly the president is his own call what he chooses to do. In my view, this is something that affects the president's reputation personally. He should not be defending himself through third parties. And
so you are saying that it affects the president's reputation personally, and so
yes,
should not be heard to be extended, as some people are making it, that Article 69, for example, should come to play, where it says that the president shall be removed from office if he is found in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution or whatever, to have conducted himself in a manner which brings or is likely to bring the high office of the president into disrepute, ridicule, or contempt. You say this is only to the president personally and not to the office.
No. But I mean, of course, I mean that the president's personal conduct, the way he has conducted himself personally in this matter, definitely does affront the provision you just read. But impeachment is not, again, a purely legal or judicial process. It is also ultimately a political process. It has to go through a legislative kind of approval.
That's right.
So, of course, I mean, you can try all manner of schemes here. I don't think that it will work. I mean, ultimately, we live in a highly political state. And I think that it is for the president.
I'm a bit curious, though. The various presidential candidates, I'm sure they are taking gifts of cars. Should they be allowed to get into the presidency? Because they even have not gotten there yet, and they are taking cars all over and other gifts.
Oh, that is a huge, a big issue. I mean, of course, they are not public officials yet. So the provisions that speak to public officials and presidents do not directly apply to them. But those provisions about parties not accepting contributions from foreign donors and other things, of course, apply here. And we ought to actually, again, you raise an important issue, and I think it's a very important one, that underlying all of this is a problem about how our politics is financed,
Okay.
how our campaigns and elections are financed, how our parties are financed.
Okay.
That is broken. That system is broken, and we do need to use probably this occasion. In fact, that may be one of the things that the president can do. Is just look, in light of all of this, and I mean, we probably can introduce some really radical reforms in campaign finance in Ghana and the like. I mean, he can come and be contrite, and we can come to the public and address the public and say, well, I did not conduct myself properly in this manner, I apologize. Those things can be done.
Okay.
Clinton did them.
All right.
Okay. His personal reputation was at stake.
Okay.
And so I think that merely because we do not have a legal recourse that might work, or merely because we do not have a political recourse that might work, does not mean that the president ought to walk away from this without doing anything to repair the damage that is caused to the dignity of his office.
Right. So thank you very much, Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. He's a constitutional law scholar and governance expert. Has had a lot to do with making constitutions elsewhere in Africa. He's been he's been a consultant to some of the constitutions that have to be done elsewhere in Africa. Thank you very much for your time. And let's come back into the studio. And I think that I would like to start with Kweku on this note. You have been heard to say that whilst Manasseh ought to be commended in one breath, he rushed and suggests that if he had the benefit of the information we have now, he would not have published what he published. Is that what you're trying to say?
I've said nothing of that sort. Absolutely nothing of that sort. Anybody who watched me on Metro TV, Good Morning Ghana, last Thursday, will bear me out. A lot of misrepresentations have been put out there, even quotations. Of course, I'm a journalist. I'm not going to do an ethical evaluation of other journalists' work. Let me be very blunt with you. I ended up on that program defending Manasseh's professional integrity and the quality of work he had done as against what my co-panelist was doing. Perhaps I even went for the overkill. So, in principle, and for avoidance of doubt, I did not attack Manasseh or his work. I actually defended him and his work. But of course, in analyzing the entirety of the story, as well as commentaries that had come on board, one had to state his own position. And I did indicate, and you've preempted me because I had a way of going, but I think it's important to deal with that aspect, that if you read the story carefully, relative to what commentary was also accompanying the story, not by Manasseh, but by other commentators, I had not seen any establishment of the link between the car gift and the award of contract. I had not seen that in the story. So for me, the attempt also to read into that as bribery against the president was untenable. That's not a critique of the Manasseh story. That's an observation I was making in the wake, one, of the story having been published and people making their commentaries and with all the deductions and analysis people were making. And I think that we have to be careful. But what I found most repugnant was quotes that had been attributed to me, which I never did, that Manasseh rushed. No, indeed, if you listen to and I called for the video and I went through it. Whilst my co-panelist was saying Manasseh rushed or didn't take his time, I was heard loud and clear said that he did take his time. I thought that he had, in interviewing so many people, it wasn't a perfect story in the sense that I'm telling you the lack of linkage, which I believe, okay? But talking to Bataden, and I defended his hypothetical approach. I defended it stoutly. I saw nothing absolutely wrong with it.
Sounded almost like the argument that came up in Anansi's situation, entrapment.
Another
just entrapping the people.
Thing is that people have taken me on and are trying to make it as if Anas and Manasseh are in competition. They are not. For me, they are not.
Okay.
Both are doing public interest journalism. And it's for the public to judge the merits or demerits. Anas himself, his work is subjected to critique by so many people. Lawyers, society organizations, and others condemned his methods as well as even the findings. In any case, when he went through due process, 1 or 2 of the judges were freed. That shows the imperfection.
Yes, but the question of the linkage that you say you can't find.
Yes.
Upon the having since then, if you've been able to read the Code of Ethics or any of the materials that I've seen that you've gathered them yourself, have you had any slight change of mind about the linkage?
No. If you are talking of us dealing with Code of Ethics, dealing with the constitutional provision about Code of Conduct and all those things, I indicated that those were legitimate inquiries to make. And that's what makes the story even more important.
Okay, so I'm asking whether on the back of those documents, you still can't find any linkage.
No, I can't. Because the linkage must be something of evidential value. You may be talking of circumstantial.
Okay.
You are talking of
now let me just read this briefly to you. That in the preface to the Code of Ethics by the President, that's the Code of Ethics for Ministers and Political Appointees in Ghana. The preface says that the position of a minister is one of trust with a great deal of discretionary power. Being a minister demands the highest standard of probity, accountability, honesty, integrity, diligence in the exercise of public duties and functions. Ministers must ensure that their conduct does not bring the government of Ghana into disrepute under any circumstances. You go to the preamble, it says, I'm reading just certain portions, it says, it is declared that high moral and ethical standards, and that's the emphasis I want us to pay attention to about moral standards. High moral and ethical standards among government and other public officials are essential to the conduct of trustworthy, efficient, and accountable government. That the president believes that. Okay, let's move on. Then I now take you to point 1.4.1. The minister and conflict of interest. It says A, the minister must avoid situations where his or her behavior or attitude could be perceived, that's the word, perceived, as giving rise to a conflict of interest situation. It also in B talks about the minister must conduct himself or herself always in the knowledge that his or her role is a public role and that appearances, the first one said perceived, here it says appearances and propriety are as important as actual conflict of interest situations. Appearances and perceptions are as important as conflict of interest situations. Then you move on, may not be necessary, but you would read and find that it talks about public perception. You come to 1.4.3, the interest of family and personal friends. It says, A conflict may arise if a minister's family or personal friends might derive or be perceived as deriving. Then you come to C. Similarly, it may not be appropriate for ministers to participate in decision-making on matters affecting family members or personal friends. Public perception is a very important factor in this context. You go on and you hear perception, 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 perception.
Quite a lot of what you've read.
Can you give me some?
No, let him just answer. Let him answer, then you come in. Let him answer, then you come in.
I really don't see.
So that it says perception is as important as actual.
Yes. So we are moving from the abstract to the reality. And in making my inquiry, I realized that bottom line, that gift is not in the personal custody of the president of his personal comfort. I found out that fact.
Okay.
Any evidence?
Any evidence? You're asking me?
Of course, yeah.
I've cultivated sources in the last 30, 40 years. In the last 30, 40 years.
Your capital.
It's part of my work. And they are very reliable. Some before Rawlings came into office, some during the time he was in office, some when Kufuor was in office, and after, till today. That's how I work. And when I verify with those sources, they don't lie to me.
Okay.
So I'm sure of what I'm talking about. So when I came to the substance and realized that this did not go, and I gave an example, an analogy, if so, on Metro. I had done this job before, a similar project.
Okay.
Pursued the Eddie Annan car gift to Mr. Rawlings. That was effected 30th December 1997. But the story came up 2000 when Kweku Sechado had an interview with Eddie Annan on front page. And somebody sent in a text that asking Eddie Annan whether he had ever given a car gift to Mr. Rawlings. He denied flatly. Subsequently, Anas and one other reporter did investigations and realized that Eddie Annan had not been truthful. I subsequently intercepted Mr. Rawlings' access declaration form, a copy of which is here.
Intercepted?
Yes, I did. Again, using the sources and
your method
that I had cultivated. Yeah. I got this thing and realized that Mr. Rawlings' spokesperson, Victor Smith, and Eddie Annan had not been fair to the facts. And that particular vehicle had been captured in Mr. Rawlings' access declaration as a joint ownership between him and his wife. So I said that's an issue. Eddie Annan's Masai company was doing business in Ghana, was doing business with government agencies. He had given you a gift, which I expected would be sent into state coffers, if anything, like has happened in this instance, in the state pool. Now, let me give you another example. You recall the farmer who donated 40-something million to Kufuor for the
renovation of his house.
You remember? And you remember the issues that came up? You know where that money went to? Don't forget the state was already doing the job. And then it became an issue as to why the state should apply monies for the private residence of a president. So this farmer, out of the blues, came and said, look, take this money and use it. That also became an issue. And I have all the NDC and other communicators' reports here, talking of conflict of interest, possible abuse of office, the man having influence over Kufuor and all the rest, because he's a businessman.
Eventually, Abang went to Shraj.
Did. Yeah. Thank you. And I have the report as well here. Now, what happened is, that money, that 40 or so million the farmer Mafu gave, was not returned to Mafu. It was sent to the Bank of Ghana and further transferred into the Consolidated Fund. All these issues, and that's what I think mitigated the Kufuor problem. If, for whatever reasons, they decided not to return the cash, NDC demanded that the money should be returned to the gentleman because it amounted to conflict of interest, bribery, and corruption.
Despite that this money was given with all the public announcements that accompanied it.
Fantastic. The Minister of State announced it. There was even a picture, a pictorial representation of the event. But it became an issue. If there's time, I'll read, quote unquote, what the NDC said on this matter about conflict of interest, potential abuse of office, corruption, bribery, and demanded that the cash should be returned to the gentleman. The government of the day did not, for whatever reasons. They sent it to the Bank of Ghana, an account there, and that money was then sent into the Consolidated Fund. Eventually, the state used its own money to do the renovation. The contrast, the car donation to Rawlings went into his personal custody. The cash donation to Kufuor's went into state custody. I looked at this Mahama one and I said, mitigation. And if you watch Metro, I made the point that with the benefit of hindsight, considering all these controversies, perhaps the president, another opportunity, may reject such a thing or would handle it in a more transparent manner. Let me tell you why. For instance, on what basis was duties paid? Very untidy. Those vehicles, if you are going to state pool, you don't pay duties. And that is why you won't find them at DVLA, because they are not there. The operational norms change almost every day. These are well-known things to people who have been around. So clearly, something untidy happened. And that gives the basis. And Manasseh had done a good job in that respect. I made that point. He went to so many places. That means somebody who took his time. You will never be able to do a perfect job. And he didn't draw.
But he went to the wrong place. He went to the DVLA.
Oh, he had to. When you see duties paid, why wouldn't you go there? And when you go there and you don't find the records, why wouldn't it raise alarm? Of course, he indicated that a source as presidency said the car was in use. Okay?
Right.
Did he say that?
Yes, he did. He did.
So you can then have to do further things in there. But I'm saying that the messenger is not the problem here. It is the way things were handled. And I have to say this to my brother. I am told that he declined to respond to a questionnaire.
Yes.
I think that was unhelpful.
That's not true.
But it's been said and you haven't reacted.
He will do that. He'll do that
Good.
right now.
Because if that's true, that he didn't react, that's part of the untidiness I'm talking about. But you see, why I refuse, and have to be honest, I'm being attacked left, right, center. People who praise me usually for being soft on Nana Akufo-Addo, Kufuor, and the rest are out there attacking my integrity and my everything.
They're intolerant.
No problems. I've been asking myself a question, and they say it's petty. They say it doesn't make sense. Don't ask those questions. The documentations, why this was not as transparent, that's in terms of publicity, in terms of the cash donation to Kufuor. I wonder, the documentation, the head of Chancery's letter, and the trail, nobody is going to be able to convince me that if there was an intent to bribe in order to actually achieve some advantage, that documentation would have occurred. And if it occurred, the documents would be left in public records. Nobody's going to be able to convince me. And so it was on that basis, and I haven't seen or read Manasseh suggesting that this is bribery. I haven't seen it.
But he asked the question, is it conflict of interest, bribery, or both?
Did he say it's bribery or it's conflict of interest? He asked the question. Fantastic. But others have, based on his story.
But that's the impression he projected. You can't deny that.
He asked the question. I want to be charitable. He has not concluded. He's asked questions, legitimate questions.
But sometimes we ask questions when we want to
conclude.
We want to make conclusions.
Yeah, but I'm not. Aren't I entitled?
Okay.
Not to go there.
Yes, aren't I entitled to do that? Aren't I entitled to say that this is how I see things? And I'm saying that on that basis, I came to the conclusion that nobody can convince me that this is a case of bribery of a president. I made that point, and there are people who are not happy about that. But that's based on my conscience, my conviction, and my experience. And I want people out there to listen carefully. I'm not perfect. I'm not infallible. I make mistakes. When I'm convinced that your submission was wrong and is proven, I retreat. I apologize, I admit, I concede. But when I'm driven by my conscience, by my knowledge, by my conviction on an issue, it doesn't change, and it cannot change. And on this call, that's my stand.
Okay, hold it there. I'm actually supposed to take a break and return, but I feel that we can hold on briefly. Here, Dr. Mane goes for the break and come in here with what Kakra and also Dr. We always say Napo, so is what Napo will say. Okay.
Yeah, thanks very much. And ordinarily, I will not have defended myself. It's not my practice at all, but because of what Kweku has raised.
It's a question I was going to ask you, so it's good you explain yourself, because I felt that your refusal to respond is part of where we are now.
And I have to do something that I do not engage in. That is to share communication with people. My brother, this is my phone. And this is Manasseh Azuri's communication with me.
Yes, I can see that.
Okay. Proud to these engagements, and let me summarize. I was in Geneva attending an ITU meeting when I missed his call. So I think I got back to him and said immediately I returned, I was going to. So on 28th of May at 7:37 p.m., I sent a message, bro, I'm back in town. It's Tuesday,
and that's before a message on the 16th, when you say you are in a management meeting and was not available. Okay.
Before those times we had been
then 28th.
Talking, yes.
You send a message to say that you are back in town.
Yes.
It's Tuesday, okay with you?
Okay with you. All the way till 9th of June, I didn't hear from him. On 9th of June, I missed a call from him. And I called.
Yeah, you say calling back.
So at 9 p.m., I sent a message. Calling back was at a DTT policy forum.
You're right.
Then he also indicated, sorry, I'm also calling. They say your number is unavailable. Right. I don't want to go into. So let no one paint a picture as if Omanebuama did not.
But didn't he send a questionnaire? I'm sorry for this rude
intervention. The voice.
The impression I get.
Just hold on. Let's do it gradually. Let's do it gradually.
Even the questions, I asked him to let me know what his issues were.
No, but first I was interested that this is not the end of the conversation between the two of you.
Yes, so it went
How does it end?
Let me then even go back. So, good morning, Doc. I had to hold on with the story yesterday. I didn't hear from you as we agreed. Can you please send the response in any form you want? Okay. This was when Manasseh had advertised that he was going to air the program the following day. So I sent a response. I didn't, you see, my attitude is not to attack his work. Because if I begin to do that, there's so much that I can assemble to attack the work. But my attitude is to take the substance in it so that we can all engage in a meaningful conversation about what a conflict of interest is and about what a corruption is and how incorruptible my president, your president is.
Our president.
Our president.
Put it right.
Yes, my president, your president,
it's
our president
Nobody
is.
Somebody's president. It's all our president.
So,
Correctly.
I sent a message. Please go ahead as advertised on social media. Because he had already advertised that he was going to have it. So I said, please go ahead as advertised on social media. If it requires my response, I will. And even in this, I was still very polite. You can read, thank you. Okay? Right. Unfortunately, and I don't want to attack his work at all.
But Doc, he has sent you the questionnaire. How long had it taken?
My brother, in all this, let's see how he takes this message and de-emphasizes as advertised on social media.
But it's also important
it's a very,
that he had a questionnaire that was sitting on your desk for almost a month or so.
Listen, if you will understand me, my preference was to speak to it.
Okay.
Instead of sending a written response. Okay. And this is proof of it. That I sent this short message. Please go ahead as advertised on social media. If it requires my response, I will. Thank you. This short message, in picking this short message to insert in his story, he chose to avoid as advertised on social media and picked, please go ahead. If it requires my response, I will.
That's the most important part.
Only God knows. Only God knows. If I had sent a written response, the aspects that would have been emphasized and the aspects that would have been de-emphasized. Fortunately, when he went ahead, it did not take more than 8 hours for me to put out what government's version was. Let me state another thing, and it's unfortunate.
You recorded that when they put it out?
No, please. I issued a statement. Let me also indicate,
I heard your voice.
And I'm emphasizing, you cannot pretend not to have seen or read this statement from the Ministry of Communications. Again, it's unfortunate you haven't. Again, Manasseh, and I've said that my intention is not to attack his work, not at all. And so I'm saying that, hindsight, perhaps it was even good that I didn't send a written response, but I responded immediately. Let me just pick on one other thing. The rhetorical question that you were arguing about with Kweku, that question had to do with, is it a bribe, conflict of interest, a situation, or both? So to his mind, these were the only possibilities. Either it's a bribe, conflict of interest, or both. It could not have been a gift. That is the conclusion, the calcified conclusion that he had, that the scope of the options was limited to it being a bribe, conflict of interest, or both. It could not have been a gift. But I'm here this morning not to attack the work of Mr. Manasseh Azuri Awuni. Because like Kweku said, look, we all make mistakes. Even BBC. I have watched a clip coming from IBBC, and BBC, with all the resources available, instead of talking about Ford Expedition, they are talking about Ford Explorer. This is BBC. So I'm not going to be attacking the work that he has done. But I'm here this morning to indicate that my president, your president, our president, is incorruptible and is not corrupt. My brother, for the purposes of citing an example, if Mr. Kwesi Twum wants to bribe President Barack Obama, he takes the bribe, invites or goes to the U.S. ambassador to Ghana, delivers the bribe to him. The U.S. ambassador also documents it, and it goes through the system, not to Chicago, but to the White House. It is processed and entered into the system. As it goes through the border post, definitely customs will document something. The first documentation arose, official documentation arose at the embassy. I'm sure the U.S. ambassador also knows that not all foreign service officials serving in Ghana, in this case serving in Burkina Faso, may be NDC, or maybe NPP, or maybe Republicans, or maybe Democrats. And that there's a likelihood that you may have people with different political orientation, or people who may not even be politically oriented at all.
Right.
So this is a man who wants to offer a bribe, decides to take it through official sources. Then the ambassador also, in delivering the bribe, documents it. And note this, that our foreign missions, they have CD number plates. It is very easy for them to have security number plates as well. So if they wanted to do it undercover, the best thing was for them to document it so that it will go through customs at the border post officially.
No.
Jesus Christ. That is why I say my president, your president, our president is not corrupt, is incorruptible, and this mud will not stick on President John Dramani Mahama.
You're talking about a bribe here. But you could give a gift through that process. And that gift will offend the ethics.
Good. I'll get there. So now, this gift, as clearly indicated, and it's unfortunate that sometimes, my good friend Samson, you visit upon us, we the non-intellectuals, intellectuals who sometimes come and confabulate, and who sometimes deliberately, through temporal vision, by temporal hemianopia, share only one side of the story. We had APC president.
I don't understand
This
that.
is what I mean.
But
I heard like Chinese.
I just hope that it's not an insult.
It's an insult.
It's not. I'm saying that.
No, he's also a medical doctor.
I know. I'm saying that.
Temporal what
That is by
hemianopia.
temporal hemianopia.
Yes, you are saying he has
That is-
tunnel vision.
Is it
Tunnel
a
vision.
medical?
It's an insult.
Tunnel vision. It's
It's an
not.
insult.
Let me explain
Can you
myself.
examine-
Oh, but you can't say that. You can't say that of Professor Kwesi Prempeh.
Wait.
You have to withdraw that,
Wait.
my brother. You have to withdraw that.
Hold it. Doc, you can't say that of Dr. Kwesi
Yeah, but let him
Professor
say
Kwesi
something.
Prempeh.
You don't even understand.
No, I'm getting the assistance of another medical doctor here.
Let me
He's
explain.
explaining it. And I'm
Samson,
here.
if you recall, when he was on, I requested not once, not twice,
To ask a
but
question.
on 3 occasions
Right.
to ask him questions. I was declined.
Yes, I told you that
Do you get it?
I want to deal with him
Do you get it?
myself.
That make him tell
And then you
Now,
can, yeah.
listen, I'm saying that he adopted a tunnel vision approach to this.
That is the
Why
insult.
do I say this?
It's an insult, my brother.
It's not an insult. I say this because this is a lawyer worth his salt,
Look at that. What does he mean?
giving serious expositions
He's a law professor.
about actus reus, the action, without taking into consideration mens rea. And you sat here and allowed him to miseducate Ghanaians and the many people who are listening to him.
I don't think he
across the
miseducated
oceans.
Ghanaians. I
This
heard
is-
him clearly. I heard him clearly when I gave the example. I asked him about menstrual. And
asked
see,
him.
no, hold on. You see this what I'm holding here. You see the notes I have on it. I didn't write them here. You have not seen me doing any notes. So it may not be because you spoke about menstrual. That's why I asked
It was
about
already
menstrual.
there. And you asked the
It was
question.
already there, and it's been there
Yes.
for about 3 days now. Now listen. Now when I wrote menstrual, I asked the question here: what was the man thinking? What was the president thinking? And I put these questions to him in criminal jurisprudence.
It's not about
You
you
heard
at
his
all.
explanation.
Yeah.
This is what he had to say. That in fact, maybe I was tunnel visioned.
Yes.
And he said, you don't limit it to criminal liability.
This is an agency.
There is
law.
law of thoughts, there is, and various other things that he mentioned. So I think that it may not be fair to say that he miseducated the people. You
That
may
is-
disagree with him, you are entitled.
No, that is what,
That is
Right.
scandal
that is
theory.
what you think. Again, this is a man, professor of law, who avoids the critical issue of disclosure in dealing with conflict of interest, and particularly as he refuses to go into the kill, which has to do with either in writing, verbally, or surrendering.
What does it got to do
He
with
did not
conflict of
avoid.
interest?
He said to avoid the
What does
conflict of
disclosure
interest
got to do with
situations.
conflict of interest?
There are situations where you are required to make disclosures. He was very clear about that. Please, can you just make your point without attacking him?
I am.
Yeah.
I'm not attacking him. I'm not
Okay.
insulting him. What I'm saying is that he decided to emphasize the facts of the issues that, in his view, will nail President
He responded to my
Mahama.
questions, please.
Again, Samson, I'm saying that if Kwesi Chum tries to bribe President Barack Obama this way, either Kwesi Chum is a terrible bribe giver, or, I don't know what else I will use to describe him. Okay? This is what people want Ghanaians to believe about this issue that we are discussing.
Omani, anybody
My
will be a
brother.
dummy to try to offer bribe in this way. And I
Fantastic.
agree with you, but I'm saying we are talking about presenting a gift, and the gift could be presented through the same channel.
So, Samson, At no point in time have we heard anybody say that the gift was presented to President John Dramani Mahama by the contractor.
The contractor himself says so.
Oh, that it was presented to President John Dramani Mahama.
He says, me and my family decided that because of what he came to do for us during the funeral of my father, we should give the president a gift, and we bought him a car.
We are talking about two different things.
His interaction with Manasseh, the question is asked, and he says, I gave it not for the ambassador, but for the president.
You are not getting. You are not. Can you? Right. You are not getting what.
And the letter to is specific.
You are not getting.
The letter says this is for the president. The gift to the president.
You are not getting what I'm driving.
Okay, let me understand you then.
Let me see if I understand your question. So that
you are not getting what I'm driving at.
Let Omani speak. Yeah.
I'm saying that at no point in time did we hear anybody say, "I presented the gift to the president."
Okay.
As in presenting this phone to you.
It doesn't matter that they said it was for him. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
You get it?
Okay.
And it's important. I know my job here again is not to attack his work. But I know in Manasseh's work, the promo indicated that something changed hands. Okay? If I juxtapose that, and I've heard some people liken this to the issue of the judges and all. If you juxtapose the two, something changing hands in the two scenarios are completely different and at 180 degrees on the number line apart. Because I've heard people say that, oh, the judges, if
somebody took a goat and got dismissed.
Ridiculous.
They are apart. Now, how did the incorruptible...
You're absolutely right on that point. But in fact, as regards the judges, the call was about ex parte communications that they were prohibited from doing. So if you look at that also, you may find a certain semblance of a prohibited, conduct.
Due process. After due process.
They were seeking to compromise.
But they were dealt with after due
You're right
process.
about that. Go ahead. Yeah,
Samson,
go ahead.
My next point has to do with this notion that it was to influence the award of the contracts. And then again, my job is not to attack his work.
But the documentary didn't say that.
Yeah. The notion also that because he praised the job that had been done, it fits into the play. It's also completely wrong. There are so many contractors on the Eastern Corridor Road. And there are some of them who one would have expected that they would have worked at a much more faster pace. As we speak now, this is a segment that has been completed. Everybody appreciates the details and the nitty-gritties that EU projects go through. And I will wish that you take your time and go further into the history of this particular project.
those cancelled ones.
And how the EU was very particular about it. And you will come to no other conclusion. That President Mahama did not interfere, and indeed could not have interfered.
Again, look at this note of mine about EU contracts. I've done some checks on that. And this note I make here with asterisk. No influence local is possible. No local influence is possible. Don't worry, but by what I have read and what I have educated myself.
Okay,
go ahead. Yeah.
Once again, I say, my president, your president, our president, John Dramani Mahama, is not corrupt. And
but tell me this. We are told that 3 contractors were asked to bid, and they did bid. Yeah. Now, these 3 contractors, if they knew, the other 2 knew that Kanazoe had given a gift to the president, what do you think will play up in their mind? Will be the reason why they lost, but he won? Perception again.
Okay, so you are referring to the embassy.
That is correct.
Contract.
The embassy contract.
And not
I said I
the-
wanted to understand your question.
Yeah.
You
Right.
see, let me know, please, important. What do you mean by the word gift? Because as a lawyer, at a certain stage in the proceedings, the word gift must be construed to mean bribe. So what do you mean by the word gift?
Please make your point.
No, explain it so that when he's giving the answer, me to understand.
No, but
And then when it
sorry,
gets to
I will
me-
not be answering questions. So just go ahead. Yeah.
No, but
make
you
your
ask the
point.
question. No, you
Put
ask
your
No, you ask the question.
I ask it, so
want
answer it and proceed.
you want
I will
to
not
draw,
answer for you.
want
I'm
to
sorry.
You want to
Yeah.
draw a distinction between a gift and a bribe, which in this particular discussion is not necessary. Because if it is a gift, qua gift,
I'll tell you this. We're having
Please,
a discussion.
I have
We're
not
having a
finished.
discussion.
Yes.
I'll tell you this. I want to preempt something
Very
that
well.
often happens with political people.
Very well.
I don't have a closed mind. I don't have a decision on what is going on.
Very well.
And so I'm trying to assist those listening to us to make meaning of what is going on.
Very well.
Thank
Very
you
well.
very much. So I may play the devil's advocate, and I'll push you to the wall.
No, it's not a question of
Don't-
playing the devil.
don't
No,
say
don't get me wrong. Don't
my
get
mind
me-
is closed.
No,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I want to understand the context within which you use the word gift. Whether you mean it as gift qua gift or gift as bribe. And then, when he's answering, I'll be educated furthermore.
I think
That's
it
what
as-
I'm saying. I'm not saying that
I
what you're
take
saying
it
is
as
wrong.
gift, as
No,
gift.
please don't get me wrong. Don't think that I'm making, I'm categorizing you as
Right.
belonging here or there. No,
That's fine.
You have asked a question. I want to understand the question so that it will help me when it gets to my
Kakra, I
turn.
take it as gift as gift.
Gift
As gift.
Very well.
And your question is a very relevant one.
Okay.
My brother Samson, and not that I'm picking on Katie. Katie's mother passed away. Several donations were given. Nobody should misconstrue that to me, that was done to influence any appointee of Joy or Asempa or whatever.
Yeah.
How does that influence you?
So that one you agree with Professor Prempe when he
Go
says
through
he says the donations cannot be
go
seen to
through
constitute
the
any.
processes. And it is unfortunate that some of the interaction between government agencies and Joy News, multimedia, also did not play out very well in the documentary. This is one such a letter written by the AESL to the managing director, Joy News, Multimedia Group Limited, Accra. We write to acknowledge receipt of your letter on above subject, dated May 30, 2016. Our comments are as follows. And I suspect Joy had written, request for information on Ghana Embassy fence wall in Burkina Faso.
That's right.
They submitted this 1, 2, 3, including drawings and all
Right.
kinds of things. Okay. President Mahama is not the head of AESL. The last time I checked, he read a history at University of Ghana. He did a communication studies. He's not the head of AESL. He doesn't do the kinds of, in fact, he doesn't have the expertise to do the kinds of things that AESL does. Quantity surveying, bill of quantities, award of supervision of selected contract, all these things. AESL, in their response to Joy News, said the role of the AESL in the fence wall project, the AESL Limited's role was to provide pre- and post-contract consultancy services in terms of architectural, structural, land surveying, quantity surveying services, leading to preparation of technical specification, bills of quantities and tender documents, evaluation of tenders, award of contract, and supervision of selected contractor to execute the construction works. This is AESL writing to Joy News in relation to this work.
So you are saying this to to make the point that the contractor won the contract on merit.
That the gift as gift has no way to influence the work that was done by the AESL. And that is why, for instance, those who may want to contest what the AESL did, why? All these things are there. They can look at them with their professional mindset and all. Again, what has happened? We read that the scope of works, and when you say, oh, a wall, you take it as a wall. In this response to Joy News, it's captured that compensating owners in accordance with Burkina B law and order. So even compensation was also part of this total cost.
Manasseh describes the place as the size of a football field.
But like I've said, I'm not here to criticize the work of Manasseh Azuri. Okay.
Well,
and it also even included security posts, not one.
Right.
Security posts, visitors sitting area, and all those kinds of things. So the question about gift as gift and people participating, and factually,
does it matter?
The lowest responsive bidder.
Right.
The lowest responsive bidder. If I participated in a contract bid and somebody provided a lower figure than I did, and the person eventually wins the contract, Samson, do you think any man capable of thought would want to contest that?
Well, that also I have experience. I've sat on tender entity committees as a lawyer, and there are concerns that sometimes we have about how certain things are done, but I'm not suggesting any wrongdoing. But all I want to point to you now is for you to think about, does it matter Kenazoe's commentary that about how he came to meet the president when he was vice president and why he got to make the contact? Because he was seeking contract and he was not being successful. Then he was introduced by a local contractor to see the vice president. He went to see the vice president. He said, we went to salute him. And then after that, a friendship begins. Don't you think it makes the situation a bit murky?
See, even if you are to examine that, when did he meet the president, and when was the EU contract initiated and contract signed? And that is why sometimes when you emphasize different aspects of a conversation, different aspects of a written response, and you are not careful, you arrive at the conclusion that our good friend Manasseh arrived at by asking a question that was limited in scope. Is it a bribe, conflict of interest, or both? And forgot about the fact that this man had insisted that he offered a gift. And forgot about the fact that a key aspect of even dealing with conflict of interest, which he wanted to ask people to choose between a bribe and conflict of interest, also has to do with if you disclosed. And which way? Verbally, surrendering, in writing, and all. But I'm happy that we have a president. Can you imagine with his
is that documentation, is that paper trail that shows that it is in the pool?
I have asked the gentleman.
It's in the pool of the
look, I have
state
asked the gentleman who is in charge of this, and he said I documented it. Again, I then asked him to describe that vehicle to me, and he did. Okay, and then somebody jokingly said that why don't you people allow me to drive this vehicle through?
Okay, so, thank you very much.
Samson,
let's take a break here.
But please, just give me just 2 seconds. Samson, President Mahama, I'm sure there are some people who are saying that, what? This is a president who is accused of buying V8 for Mr. Paula Foko, Cabinet Japan. And he's being bribed with Ford Expedition second-hand.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll take a break here. And when we return, I will be asking Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh first to take his to give his take. No, I'll speak to you first. We'll hear his take on this whole development and get him to tell us whether he thinks that the president's own code of ethics. Of course, people say the code of ethics were promulgated or were made in 2013, and so they do not apply. I find that they are standard code of ethics. They apply. They look like what you find elsewhere, and before that, the Shraj own was also there. I find actually a lot of mimicking of what Shraj had done in there, and portions of what you have already in the Constitution. So, code really must have existed, and in that code, the president doesn't want his ministers to accept a gift whose value is 200 Ghana cedis or more, or 500 Ghana cedis or more. If you have to accept a gift of the value of 500, you need the express permission of the president. We'll be right back.
It's not real.
This show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, welcome to the new world. Star Assurance, creating smiles since 1985. NIIT, bringing people and computers together successfully. Having mosquito coil, that's the best you can have. And ACAP compost fertilizer. Look for them and you will testify why we are talking about them. If you're a public service worker and you are in need of loan, the best place to go is Bank of Africa, and you get your loan within 48 hours. You have 5 years to repay. You won't get this anywhere. Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. If your internet could speak, what would it say? It will say that you've been behaving as if you need 4 hours to cook instant noodles. That is waste. Throw that particular package away and move on to a better internet experience. Switch to MTN 4G LTE and enjoy a whopping 100% bonus when you bundle. To get started, simply dial *585# to check if your device is 4G compatible. And you can get this by visiting any MTN service center near you with a valid ID, and you make the switch. Enjoy a better internet experience on Ghana's only 4G network on the go and say hello to the future. Now, Star Assurance, they have been doing 30 years of providing you insurance products that make you smile all the time. The dangers in this world, they make them seem as if they don't exist at all, as though they were only in your dreams. So, if you're looking for contractors, homeowners, all risk, fire and allied peril insurance policy, the best place to go is Star Assurance. Star Assurance, they've been creating smiles since 1985. Contact them, starassurance.com, or call 030-224-0632. Now, Prostacure tea is a specially formulated health drink that improves urination or problems in urination, particularly in men. So if you are suffering frequent urination during the day and night, delayed urination, whatsoever, the best thing to get is Prostacure tea from Medimosis Prostate Center. They are located at Adenta Barrier, Tema Ejekojo, or Ahinima Kokoben Kumasi. You could call them 020-8140-668. And Having Insecticide has relaunched a newly improved, stronger formula for its products. Mosquito coils, they make sure that now it has a stronger killing formula. Also, it's a smoke reduction formula in it, and it has a sweet-scented flowery perfume now. Insecticide spray has a unique sweet-scented perfume also. Having Insecticide, gentle, pleasant on humans, and a touch on nightmare on insects. So that's what it does for you. It's very gentle and pleasant on humans, and it's a tough nightmare for insects. Having Insecticides, ekum intontum emma utimi eda. So just look for them and enjoy it. Thank you very much. And as it appears, we are doing just a single item agenda for today. So Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh will now have his say on the issue, and I ask him the questions if he looked at what has happened against the code of ethics and everything, or best practice, as Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh tried to share with us. What would he say? Was it indiscretion, or was it clear attempt to do what is prohibited?
Thank you. Thank you. And good morning to your listeners. I think we've had a very interesting discussion today, and I want to continue in that light. Where I do take my executive lessons, we call something case study, where they strip the case of all known persons and they just put the case there and people analyze.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to do. A friend who is searching for contracts in Ghana, who from 2003 to 2010 has just secured one contract, is taken by a well-known contractor friend. Say, if you are wanting contrast in Ghana, let's go and salute the vice president. What does that mean? They go and salute the vice president at that time, and a friendship blossoms, such that the man's father dies, and a delegation is sent. At that time, the vice president has become a president. Subsequently, the man secures 2 contracts. The man is interviewed, and he says, I've never given the president a vehicle, nor have I given the ambassador a vehicle. After that, when a letter was shown to the country, he admits, oh, that car was for the president. And even when I gave that car to the president, he called me after receipt to thank me. Is this a conflict of interest, a bribe, or both? That is the case study.
But you would have to answer the question also.
I'm going to answer
Is
the
this
question.
possible in compromising the president?
Yes,
I'll
answer. If the president can be compromised by a Ford expedition, then he's the cheapest president I've ever known. But if the Ford expedition was given to the president for friendship and for contract purposes, it can happen. It can happen.
He's not on the procurement.
And please, I didn't come here. I've just kept quiet. I didn't come here to answer questions from anybody. Nobody should answer me. I'll answer questions from you. I'm just saying that I don't. Your difference is in your head. When it gets to your time, you explain. I'll do that to you.
Okay, so just
Something protect you.
Proceed.
Protect me. I'm saying, if within a matter of a year, after the blossoming of the friendship, the president's friend gets 2 contracts.
False.
And brings the president, even 1 contract, and brings the president a car.
1 or 2.
To say thank you. It can't be said to be bribery or conflict of interest. Because the president's own code of conduct is talking about perception. Why did the guy give the president the car when he went to salute him? Why didn't he give the car at that time?
The bribery thing you talk about, there ought to be personal, private gain.
No, I'm coming. I'll illustrate to you where there's a private gain here as well. I'll illustrate to you. So we have established the fact that going by the president's own code of conduct, it has breached perception or appearance and will come to accountability. When he received the car in October, when he got the car, or November when he got the car, he was the president. And he called to thank. Who did the president entrust that car to? We don't know. We get to know in February, the year after, that the president sent somebody called Shaigu to go and pay duties. When the guy went, he said the car was a second hand and paid a duty to reflect that. In Tema, they declared the car in Tema. The car came through Paga. And when you are paying duties, you pay in a certain name. That record we can't find. So I would have been very, very happy if we could have found that record, whose name was the duties paid, and who paid the duty, and who gave that person the power of attorney to pay that duty. All I'm being told now is that after that duty has been paid by the owner of the car, His Excellency the President, through a surrogate, that car has been gifted to the State Protocol Department.
His Excellency the President, who is not liable to tax.
Who is not liable to tax, pays duty now. And now he has gifted the car to the President, to the State Pro. I would not have been worried if there was a documentary evidence for that. Because I know of people who work in the Flagstaff House or in Castle who use their own car. And because of that, they go and get fuel for using their own car. But the car registration number is locked for using fuel, right? Does that mean it's a state protocol car? So I want to know the evidential value of people who are taking it for gospel. That because the car is here in now, it belongs to the state. As of now, nobody has shown me any record to show that the car belongs to the state. As we speak around this table, all those who have spoken have not shown. They say the car is in the state protocol pool. It doesn't mean it belongs to the state.
Not
Yes.
Not state protocol.
State what?
In fact, initially, some of the government spokespersons, also bereft of the facts of the case, were heard on other radio stations saying that the car did not come in the name of the president. It came in the name of the presidency.
No,
that is a lie.
they were
I
wrong.
won't even go there.
The letter doesn't show
Yes,
that.
yes,
The
it does.
letter was
Yeah.
very, very specific. It was a brand new car. It was giving. It was the duties were paid as a second hand.
Right.
If the president would accept second hand cars, it's even worse. I don't think anybody.
You see, you will help yourself if you read. That's paragraph 1 of the statement.
Okay, you go ahead. Go ahead. Let's listen to
That
you.
will help you to know where the
If my
gift
brother would educate himself, you see,
It will help
let's
you.
look at the first contract.
First paragraph.
The first contract that brought this car. We now even have letter by another company saying that they also bid for the contract. They even had a lower price and they were not offered.
Was that what we saw on social media?
I'm coming.
Was that what we saw on social media?
I don't know where your social media. It
I
might
also
be
saw
wrong.
something,
I saw something on social media.
but
I don't-
would you want to
Wait,
rely
don't
on that?
import
But wait,
social
hold
media.
on. Let me do my job then. So go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank
Yeah.
you for.
It might be wrong, but we have to probe since we are investigating
So
a lot of
don't
things.
import that here.
I'm going to
We are
import.
doing serious
Sorry,
business this morning.
please allow him to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
If it was a gift gifted to the president, did the GRA, did the president, this is a president who every year goes to pay his taxes and tells the whole world that he has paid his taxes. Samson, did the president, when he got this car, pay taxes on the car? Because I've seen the president go to GRA and I filed my tax return to encourage Ghanaians to file.
And people criticize him for paying that.
I could have been more disruptive, you know. I could be more.
You
even more
know, he's
disruptive.
already raised a complaint that,
you are
he's,
doing it
he's,
now.
he's
I'm
a
not
bit of a
doing it.
low.
But each payment took about
Forget about
45
that.
minutes.
I keep telling the politician it's not important the
Eight payment
numbers
took
and the
45
time.
minutes to spew
It's the
the
quality of your
side.
submission. So let's
if
hear.
the president didn't pay tax, this car that has been gifted to the president, he didn't pay tax and then handed it over to the state. And so he made somebody go and register. I want the name. Secondly, we were in this country when the president sacked the deputy minister, Victoria Mahama, for a perception of corruption, $1 million. If I get $1 million, I'm finished. She was sacked. Does this thing, does it pass the smell test? Look, the law on conflict of interest is about a smell test. It is about a perception. It is about a perception. It's about an appearance. It's about how it has been handled, not whether it was documented or not. You see, Kwame Nkrumah has been, because of this issue, I've heard people say Kwame Nkrumah even received it, and every president has received gift. Kwame Nkrumah rejected a gift of a yacht in 1958 because of appearances. He said, instead of giving me the yacht, go and use it as a fishing vessel. But the same Kwame Nkrumah gifted other nations millions of Ghana of dollars.
Yes.
Which yacht are you talking about?
You get my point?
No, which yacht are you talking about?
Kwame Nkrumah gifted other people.
No. Ben Gurion gave him a yacht. He
not
accepted
Ben Gurion.
it.
It's
So
not Ben
who are you
Gurion.
talking about?
Not Ben Gurion.
Which one? Who gave him the gift? Tell the
Don't worry,
public.
we'll get to you shortly. Yes, let's hear you.
So gifts between states have occurred. Gifts between states have occurred.
Okay.
So Libya giving Ghana gift is nothing new.
This is why
Ghana giving other countries gifts. When there was an earthquake and a tsunami in Southeast Asia, Ghana gave.
I'm sure the Libyan president leader giving Ghana that gift, that argument has not come up on this
At
platform.
all.
Yeah, I think it's for good
Because
reason
if he
that it
brings
hasn't
it, that
come
is
up.
why I brought this cap.
So
And I'll quickly go to City Hotel.
Gifts, yes, go
So
to
don't
City Hotel,
bring
go
it.
to Golden
So
Tulip.
don't bring
Go
it.
to Golden Tulip.
So don't bring it.
That's gift.
Okay,
That is
please,
why-
Omane,
keep quiet.
Dr. Omane,
When I
please,
get
please.
irritated, I'll
Go
say
ahead,
things I
go
don't
ahead.
Don't get
Yeah.
irritated.
Stop, please stop.
The Mercedes-Benz S500 that was gifted to Ghana by Libyan ambassador at an official ceremony. It was not even only one Mercedes-Benz. All those who attended an AU conference were given, the states were giving that car gifts. Right? And that car was not in the name of President. No duties were paid by a surrogate and handed over to state protocol. No, it wasn't done. So if President accepted the gift, he didn't pay. Hasn't he contravened the tax laws? Because he always goes there to pay his tax. Because did he declare that? The second thing, why was the car declared as a second-hand car when it was a brand new car? Was it to undermine the import law? And why was that cheap sum paid? Because they were declared as second-hand. So under declaration, comes in, right? So when you go through, I believe, if you ask me my opinion, if you ask my sister, I believe that a friend of the president, in contributing to the president's election, bought a car that can be used for campaign. False. That's what I believe. That's what I believe. So I was expecting the president to have been contrite enough that as a president, because of all the rules and the things I've brought about, perception, bribery and things, probably I didn't handle this issue well and Ghanaians should forgive me. The issue would have been dead. But a gift that has been under-declared, that false things have emanated around it, but the fact that even going to declare it in Tema and say what they said was false. So I asked the question, did the president take the car to the state protocol before going to pay the duties or after paying the duties?
I had asked this question earlier. I think it may be important to make the analogy. You heard Ivor Greenstreet. He said, look, I'm campaigning, I need vehicles. Of course, he expects that people will buy those vehicles and give them to him. Prof. Prempeh says that, okay, they've not yet come into the domain of public offices. Okay, but our Supreme Court of Appeal has said that, the political parties are public, entities. So, the political parties, already, you are also caught in this already before you get to power. Because you are using gifts of cars, gifts of almost everything that you use.
You have to give me the evidence of that. You see, I've been told, you have to give me the evidence of that. I don't care about what Greenstreet is saying. I'm analyzing this issue.
Right.
And Butterdam, what does he say? He thinks his president, our president, would never even accept this hypothetical gift. It has been accepted. What does Emil Short say? He said that irrespective of documentation and what has happened, the appearance doesn't pass the smell test. If it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, if it appears like a duck, it is indeed a duck. Perception.
Are you with your group in Parliament that says you may consider moving a motion for impeachment?
If an impeachment proceeding happens, it doesn't mean the president has accepted it, right?
Okay.
It means let us investigate. And it's only when we come to the stage that we investigate and the evidence is adduced and we are certain that the president has accepted the right or not that we will vote in Parliament. Even though it's a political process, in our constitution, it's a fairer political process than in other countries. Because if 92 MPs sign that the president should be impeached, it doesn't stay with Parliament to bring the president. It goes to the Chief of Justice to set up a tribunal where people will be given fair hearing. So our process is a very fair hearing. So I don't see any wrong in 92 people. My signature have not been sought, but if my signature has been sought, I'll sign. Do you know why I'll sign? This is a scandal of international dimensions. Not long ago, the president, in describing himself as a human being, told us that as a human being, all sorts of things come. As a human being, a gift has come, and we are investigating issues surrounding the handling of
when
this
he
gift.
said in that interview that he puts himself in a position to avoid these things, don't you see that he seems to have demonstrated that? Because he doesn't receive the gift. And
I was looking at that interview again, and now I know why the president could not answer directly. He was thinking about all the things he has received as gifts, and he was just opposing it with the question that has been put: how do I answer? See, if he says he puts himself that what?
In a position, in a situation where you may not even offer them, or if you bring them, he will.
So let us put this
nicely.
He put himself in a position that it was offered. He directed.
He didn't ask it.
He didn't. We don't know about that, do we?
He didn't even know.
Because now around this table, even things that the giver said, they are discounting it. The giver said the president called him to thank him. So the president received the gift.
The Shroud Code of Conduct, which is now being turned into a law by yourselves in Parliament, says gifts offered.
One here.
Okay.
So that's the bill.
Right, great. Says gifts offered or accepted in violation of the exceptions must be politely but firmly declined or immediately returned to the sender if delivered without prior notice, maybe like this one. Alternatively, the official should pay the market value for the gift. When it is not practicable to return a tangible item because it is perishable, the item should be given to an appropriate charity. This is even for the exceptions.
Yes.
You know the exceptions where those unimportant things can be received.
So for all the regulations and laws we have in this country, it has been flouted on this particular issue. And so when my senior colleague said it is very untidy, it was not done transparently, it is his view that if those things were done more tidily, if it was done more transparently, maybe it would have qualified to be in the state protocol pool. But what I am saying is that I don't think the intention was to take it to state protocol where it's residing now.
Okay.
It is an afterthought.
It's not. That was the first place it got to when it came to the presidency.
I would love that if Dr. Mahama would tell me with evidence that was where it went. I want to believe it, but he should show. So who in the state protocol department decided to go and pay?
He may produce a document and you say this document was done post facto.
He said who in the state protocol department went to pay the
I'm
duty?
not mentioning state protocol. Now, state protocol is your invention.
Okay.
I have given this statement to you, and you are refusing to read it.
Okay.
Read the statement.
No,
for
all
your
he wanted you to read is that
Take the first paragraph.
the said vehicle, which was placed in the vehicle pool at the presidency,
Then see.
as per established convention,
Which convention is
had
that?
nothing to do with the award of contracts.
Something. If Omanibuama, who authored this paper, wants us to believe it, he should show us the convention.
The convention they had initially
There is
suggested
no
the
convention like that.
Libyan leaders' donation.
No,
it looks
again,
like that has been abandoned, right?
No, there's no convention like Kufuor received a gift in his personal capacity and gave it to the state.
Okay.
The Libyan donation was by Libyan ambassador, or for that matter, Gaddafi in Ghana, saying that this is from my people to the people of Ghana.
Note the.
You remember when Gaddafi came in? Before I finish, I'll come
the father's
in.
money.
Sidia, let me finish this. Do you remember when Gaddafi visited here? He visited with a huge number of cars, Land Cruisers.
Yes.
And he left them all. And those who took those Land Cruisers. You see,
No, the Gaddafi thing is inappropriate.
Yes.
Point. The only common denominator is that he went to the state.
It went to the state.
The thing is not
That's not the same
But you
thing.
see, to be honest and fair to Rollins, and maybe the gift is of a different nature.
Okay.
If you look at his access declaration,
he showed
it
it.
says miscellaneous gifts passed on to state protocol to the museum. It may be of a different nature, not a car, but still there is that convention that certain gifts received by heads of states when they are in office, in exiting, they hand them over to the state.
And I'm saying,
Rollins did that relative to
all
this.
I'm saying is that why would the duty be paid?
That's a legitimate
I'm
question.
saying, if you cannot, when you were speaking, I didn't interrupt.
No, but I spoke.
What you refer to? Why
do you take people's contribution as welcome, but mine as
Yours is
irritating?
irritatingly irrational.
That's discriminatory.
That's why you're doing this.
You are discriminating against a
Omanibua
junior
is not
colleague.
even respecting the father of a senior colleague.
You are discriminating against
He's not
a
even
junior
respecting the senior colleague.
You are discriminating against a junior
Omanibua
colleague.
comes to the table to even insult others. With medical
Sorry, I'll just try to say, in addition to what Tuko was saying, that the practice, for example, in the US, the CNN reports that in the US, in a certain year, by 2014, President Obama had received in excess of $1.5 billion worth of gifts that came to him. And this is what he did. He said, but Obama, like any other federal employee, is legally barred from accepting any of it outright.
Outright, you can't.
The president must reject the gifts, turn them over to the federal government, or should he choose to keep them, pay their fair market value. Yes. In the Obama's case, most of the items have been dispensed to the National Archives, while a few, including wine and perishables, are handled by state's secret service.
But I would want to believe that Rollins giving these things, whichever nature, I don't know, because it's not specified.
The value is important,
to the state protocol means that there must have been a certain convention.
Some convention, okay.
Kwaku, What I'm saying is that in the US it's governed by law.
Right.
Yeah,
And that's
maybe we should do that.
Okay.
Sorry, for only you to
Okay.
speak.
No.
Yeah.
Napo-
You have handled the thing
We're making
badly,
a
and you are
good
not even apologetic for handling it such badly, and you are being disruptive.
Okay, now,
making a
yes,
point.
I'm just trying to
let
tell
me
you
go
that-
to Kakra. Yeah.
Yeah, but
You see the point? 50 minutes. I said, go to Kakra. I just said, everybody here, the three of them, who are speaking for His Excellency the President, they are not even sharing with us the other opinion. And I'm sharing it, and you are cutting me.
What are you left to say? What are you left to say?
A lot of things.
What are you left to say?
A lot of things to say.
Okay. Do me 2 minutes.
I can't.
Then you
Try.
come back. You can come back to
Try.
Then you pass.
Okay. Thank you.
minutes.
Thank you. He didn't do 45 minutes.
Okay, how many?
No, he didn't do. He didn't do 45 minutes. He didn't do 30 minutes. Hold on. Let's be interested in the quality of the presentation. But I thought that you've done quite,
what I was
quite a good presentation.
What I was trying to say
You've covered a lot.
What I was trying to say that when Dr. Manebuama used words like
It's not about Dr. Manebu.
Hold on, Doc, please.
the gift is at the presidency. The gift is at the presidency. When he says that nothing has changed hands, is he speaking in fact or in theory? Why would the man, the gentleman who donated the gift, why would he say the president called him to thank him? And you sit here. If it is not a penchant to spew on truths to Ghanaians, why would you sit here and say nothing has changed?
For something that he
Thank you.
benefited
Thank you very much. Let me go to.
You've handled it
Let me go to
very, very
Kakra Samoa now.
badly.
Let me go
Refusing
to
to
Kakra Samoa
answer
now.
questions of journalists.
But before we do that, NIIT, your number one choice in IT education, and has been doing this for 15 years in Ghana, and is offering you new and exciting programs. Experience the best of computer education in a serene learning environment with qualified IT professionals. Their offering includes certificate and diploma courses in software engineering, Android programming, PHP, web development, Java programming, hardware and networking, Cisco, Oracle, database, and a lot more. Their programs are relevant to today's job market. So please take advantage of it. Also, there's a special one for corporate organizations, and they do a corporate package for you. So take your guys there and get them properly trained, and it helps your entity as well. The good news is that SHS and JHS candidates, you are getting 20% discount on selected programs so that you can be better for the next level. You can contact them at www.niitghana.com or call 02896747770. Well, as a farmer, landscaper, or gardener, what has been your bother or headache over the years? Is it about poor seasonal yields over the period, post-harvest losses due to short shelf life of your produce? Then you need ACAP compost fertilizer. ACAP compost fertilizer is an organic fertilizer made from pure organic materials such as food, market, and farm waste decomposed naturally into humus-like compost, very suitable for agricultural purposes. ACAP compost fertilizer has very high organic matter, other nutrients, good water retention properties, ideal for all crop including vegetables, fruits, cereals, crop trees such as cocoa, palm, coffee, cotton, and greening, etc. ACAP compost fertilizer is available in all leading agro input dealers and distributors across the country. For enquiries, contact Boafo at 0264070881. That's 0264070081, or Theophili at 020-173-556 020-173-5564, or Brentio at 0243-473-158. And as you always are aware, if you need a loan and you're a public, you work in the public service, then the best place to go is Bank of Africa. You get a loan within 48 hours of your application. You have 5 years to pay, and you have 3 months to think how you want to go about paying it. And Nothing is hidden. No charges that you're going to suffer. Bank of Africa, close as a friend, and also strong as a group. And the Sethi Realty and the Ministry of Water Resources, Works and Housing present Multi-TV Habitat Fair 2016. Visit the first mini Habitat Fair at Achimota Retail Center from Friday the 24th to Saturday the 25th of June and 2016, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily to receive the free guidance on all your housing and household needs. The attractions that you get: free car washing from the beautiful ladies of Auto Centrum, free turtle wax car washing products, giveaways from Auto Centrum, free playgrounds for kids during the fair. Multi-TV Habitat Fair is brought to you by Sethi Realty. Fair and affordable housing is the basic right for all. This sounds like Constitution. I love that. JL Properties. We build you a home. Kaspong Limited, your home of quality marble and granite. Auto Centrum, love your car. Noble Reality, own a noble property today. Elegant Homes and General Constructions, where quality meets value. That's great. If you want to exhibit, call these numbers: 054 010 6468 or 054 012 3799. Habitat Fair, affordable housing for all. Affordable housing for all. Now, let's hear from Kakra. And, Kakra, I've been looking at the something that we may not have paid attention, but I don't know whether it's of de minimis value. You're a lawyer. Prof. Prempeh spoke about de minimis gifts. When he was referring to gifts, he said de minimis, those that are not important.
Like
now,
a car.
No, car is important. Well, it depends on what kind of car it is. Now, if you read 1.7 of the Code of Ethics for Ministers and Government Appointees, it says, product endorsement. No minister should endorse on television or in other media any product or service except when appearing in party political advertisements or in non-political public service type advertisements or announcements. For example, promoting water safety, where permitted appearances and endorsements are for the public good, the minister should not expect or accept any fee. The president publicly spoke about this contractor. I've done my search and I've realized that that contractor in Burkina Faso does the majority of the road projects there, and he's known to do and deliver the best. But is the president allowed to do that?
He said perhaps this is about one of the best.
Is he allowed to do that? And then the roads minister actually also suggested that because of his quality of jobs that he's doing, we want to give him more job. Yes,
Something
yes.
with the greatest respect, you realize that I have barely 10 minutes to speak.
It doesn't matter.
It matters.
I
Yes.
spoke less than
No.
that.
Please, it matters to me.
I spoke less
It may
than
not matter to you. It matters to me.
Okay.
Because a lot of things have been said, which I must make a response to.
Okay,
Number
go,
one,
go on. Let's hear you.
Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh. You don't know him. I know him very well. 1980-81, I was the chairman of the Legon branch of the Popular Front Party. Kwesi Prempeh was my secretary. So I know
Was the
him.
secretary or your secretary?
His secretary. Sorry.
Okay.
I was the secretary. sorry. Sorry. See. You say I don't know him. I know him. I know him as a professional that he is, and we saw his expertise. Right. So can you address the substantive matter so we move on? You are already complaining of the time. Please.
Yeah.
You allow me to answer the way I see fit.
Is that what you are telling me to do?
No.
Sorry. Please.
Napo. That's what he was telling me.
No, you. I'm talking to you.
I'm just saying,
Please, you are
he did the same thing to
interrupting.
you.
Please, you are interrupting.
Who is saying someone is interrupting?
Kwesi Prempeh said a whole lot of things. Much of what he said is not law in Ghana.
It's not law where?
In Ghana here.
What is it? Specific.
You see, the last question you put to him, that people are donating gifts and vehicles to candidates who are campaigning now.
What did he say?
Evidence.
No. This is what the question my brother put to him.
He said, among others,
yes,
that is a very important subject we need to interrogate from this point.
And that
those people have not found themselves in the public office yet.
With the greatest respect to you and your listeners and viewers, Section 242 of the Criminal Offences Act 1960, Act 29. I'm going to read everything. It is immaterial for the purposes of 240 or 241 that the person respecting whose conduct the endeavor, agreement, or offer is made is not yet at the time of the making of the endeavor, agreement, or offer a public officer, juror, or voter. Why did he say what he said?
Yeah, but sorry.
I'm sorry. Don't worry. Why did he say what he said? What he said is no law.
Political parties.
It is not.
No, it doesn't change what you're saying.
Okay. Very well.
We move on.
It doesn't change.
He didn't even say what Kaka is saying.
Well, sorry. But even aside, But even aside what he's saying now, I had made reference to the Avelifo case where the court said political parties' property is public property. So let's go.
Article 55 of the Constitution.
Let's go on, please.
Article 55 of the Constitution made political parties.
Let's go on. Yeah.
Don't do that. He didn't say what I said.
Please, let's go on.
He said that because those people
you are wrong about that, maybe.
had not come into public office yet.
Right.
Probably we don't have to look at it the way we are looking at it right now. But this law states specifically that even though they may not have come into office, the fact that there is an anticipation that they might come into office, that is a wrong. I hope you get me clearly.
Let's go ahead.
Very well. Now, look at Article 1911. Am I right? Is it 19? Of the Constitution.
Article 1911.
Answer it the way I see it. That right, nobody should take it away from
what
me.
constitutes a charge of crime? Yes, go on.
1911. No person shall be convicted of a criminal offense unless the offense is defined and the penalty for it is prescribed in the written law.
Yeah.
The reason why I quote this is that no code of ethics, code of conduct, unless specifically specified in the Constitution, constitutes law in this country. None at all.
The Constitution says that in Article 35, as 8, that the state shall take steps to discourage corruption or whatever it is.
Yes.
So all of these things that are made code are made subsequent to the Constitution.
I'm coming.
Right.
I am coming. Under a direct authority or under the laws of Ghana. If you look at the laws of Ghana, chapter 4, 111C says, any orders, rules, and regulations made by any person or authority under a power conferred by this Constitution. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Are they CIs or allies? Are they CIs or allies?
Go ahead.
If they are, then I'm wrong.
Yes.
The code of office.
Okay, it's okay. Let's go.
Very well.
So
now, having said that, as far as I'm concerned, there are only two laws that apply to this particular case. That is the Manasseh story. The first one is Section 244 of the Criminal Offences Act, because it has changed. The name has changed. When we started, it was Criminal Code.
Don't worry. Yeah. You could still say Criminal Code. Just say Criminal Code. Let's go.
244, and then Article 284 of the Constitution. Let me read everything, because everybody needs some of this in order to help. Yes. Now, 244 says, acceptance of bribe. That's why I was asking that question. I intervened. Acceptance of bribe by public officer after doing act. Where, after a person has done an act as a public officer, juror, or voter, that person secretly accepts or agrees or offers secretly to accept for personal gain or for any other person a valuable consideration on account of the act, that person shall be presumed, until the contrary is shown, to have acted corruptly within the meaning of this chapter in respect of that act before the doing of the act. That's number one. What does 284 say? Article 284 says,
does it pass the spell test?
Oh, are you
284? Let him read about public officers and the conduct expected of them.
I'll read it.
Let him read that quickly and then we'll move on. Yeah.
I'll read it.
284.
I'll read it. 284 says, a public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. Professor Kwesi said that this is very important. We should talk about fiduciary and general. What is he talking about? I heard everything. If
I think you should be addressing
everything.
I think you should be addressing the matters that you want. The reference to him and the attempt to attack him.
I listened to him.
He didn't speak for 30 minutes,
Now,
please.
Having said that, there is a certain there's two words that appear to mean, in my opinion, the same thing in both quotations I've given you. Let me take 284 again. A public officer shall not put himself in a position where his personal interest, those are the two words I'm talking about, conflicts or is likely to conflict with the performance of the functions of his office. If you go to 244, which is the criminal, the crime, where after a person has done an act as a public officer, Jew or whatever, he secretly or agrees or offers secretly to accept for personal gain. Look at all the facts.
What is the personal gain?
It's 244.
The personal gain.
244.
Please, let's listen to him. Yeah.
Sorry. 244. Personal gain and then personal interest. Have we been able to establish that the president gained personally from this?
Yes, we have.
Who established it?
Sorry. Oh, please don't answer. Go ahead. If you ask him, he will answer you. So go ahead.
Beyond doubt, he got to pay duty. He's got to pay duty. What did he pay duty? Why did the president pay duty?
Sorry.
I understand you must do your work. You understand? Yeah, you must do your work. But you see, these are unnecessary atmospherics. What is important? What is important? What is important is that if this matter were to be tested in court, these two words will be extremely important in determining the guilt or otherwise of the president. When he took custody of the gift, what did he do with it?
Pay duty.
Please, I beg you. If he used it, then he gained personally.
Yes, he used it.
If he did not use it, did he gain personally?
Yeah, he has never used it.
And so I don't understand. In fact, you see, with the greatest respect to you, Samson, when we were making the comments about the death of the president, the president's mother, I saw the look on your faces. In spite of everything, we are still Ghanaians.
Very much so. When my dad died, he came to give me a donation.
Whatever. Why did this radio station, and I'm speaking as a member of the NMC, choose to broadcast this story on the day that his mother had died? Why are we so nasty to ourselves?
It was unanticipated.
It is not a question. You know that one that had been announced. Why are you being so nasty to ourselves? Why?
Did you come here?
It was unanticipated.
No.
Look.
Did he come here as NMC representative? Look. Did he come here as NMC representative? You may think that I am joking.
Let's listen to him.
There are many things.
You are bullying us.
I'm not bullying anybody.
In the editorial discretion,
Please, I beg you.
editorial discretion of those who.
I beg you, please.
This is inconsequential.
I beg you.
You didn't come here as NMC representative.
We don't agree on anything. But Kweku Baako will tell you that I respect him a great deal. Oftentimes, those of us who have been to school, we think that school is everything. Master, with the greatest respect to you and whatever you think, school is not everything. Law is not everything. Respect for each other is higher than law. The love for your neighbor is higher than law. Let us learn to respect each other.
So can we keep to the substance?
I have finished. Our president.
See, and then you have gone to the. Sorry.
Why are you doing this?
Sorry, gentlemen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Gentlemen, you've gone to all the aspects that's about criminality.
Yes.
And this is what I read to Prof. Prempe.
Yes.
And you can see that this one doesn't bother on crime.
Very well.
That's where he explained.
Very well.
Article 69.
Yes.
69 1B. 1BI says the president shall be removed from office if he is found. If he is found to have conducted himself in a manner which brings or is likely to bring the high office of the president into disrepute, ridicule, or contempt.
Clearly does.
What do you say to that? You don't need to go and deal with this. Is not crime.
This is not crime.
What is not crime?
This one.
I don't understand what the question.
The determination of this is not a criminal matter. The bedding is not a criminal one.
Very well, but you can't look at that without looking at 284. Personal gain.
No, you can take.
No, you can't do that.
Take this in isolation.
You don't do that. You please, you are a lawyer. We don't. We construe it the whole law.
No, you can take this. You can take this.
That is how we do it, Master.
Sorry.
That's how we construe it. You can do that. You are talking about the civil aspect. Am I right? Let me put it that way. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And you cannot talk about the civil aspect without looking at 284. And 284 talks about
I respectfully disagree. You can take this on its own.
Please,
both of you are lawyers.
Both of them are lawyers.
we
At
284
least we agree with you.
emphasizes personal gain.
They are drawn confabulation.
Yes, but we don't
They are drawn by temporal anopia.
You insist that personal gain is what ought to be used.
It's critical, yes.
Okay. So what do you say to the code of conduct? Except you say that has no any implication.
No, is it an EI? Is it an EI?
Executive instrument.
No. Oh, I must know. If I don't know,
I understood at the time the president launched it that is what it was supposed to become.
No.
I don't know if it has become.
No, it's either EI or it's
about
not.
that. Which
It's either or it's not.
which places?
Based upon this, Victoria Hammer.
Can you allow me to make one intervention?
Okay.
That intervention has to do with how we try sometimes to be very, very strict when we are looking at these laws. But we seem to have thrown away the copious reference to this code of ethics and when this code of ethics even came into being. That is not to say that even without this code of ethics, certain standards would not have been in place.
Okay.
But it's important to point to the fact that this code of ethics came into being in 2013. But why did I bring this cap? I brought this cap because
have you given him the platform?
the NPP says they went to Libya to beg with a cap in hand for vehicle. At least President Mahama did not go to Burkina Faso to
When
beg.
did the NPP say that?
Honorable Hassan Owusu-Ajima, you didn't hear him yesterday.
He said they went discussing security and the security of the presidency.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. And I need to say this. Sorry, hold on.
Begging for a car.
Hold on. I'm unable to read your messages and all, but I need to say this, that earlier, Dr. Manibuama had, sought to suggest that
it was very
Manasseh was a bit unfair to him. Manasseh has reacted by saying that before he made the publication, on the Monday before the Tuesday when the advert went up, he was supposed to have had an interview with Dr. Manibuama.
He didn't turn up.
The interview didn't happen.
Because the
so it is not the case.
India was in town. But Manasseh in this short...
He sent a questionnaire 1 month
in
before
this short
he didn't answer.
message, Manasseh refused to
Why didn't you answer the questionnaire?
capture all.
Why didn't you answer the questionnaire?
Thank God it went that way.
All right, gentlemen.
Because this short message,
gentlemen, thank you very much. Unfortunately,
but Samson,
we are done.
Samson,
And
but
the
if
time
the
is up.
thing walks like a duck,
Okay, now you have said.
like a duck.
which olfactory lobe are you using?
That is a duck.
Which olfactory lobe are you using?
Why was Victoria Hammer sacked?
olfactory lobe
Why
are
was
you
Victoria
using?
Hammer sacked?
Which olfactory lobe are you using?
But you know Victoria Hammer
Okay.
was sacked for appearances.
Right. My guests have been Kweku Bakwe Jr., who is the editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper, who is a regular panelist. Dr. Omani Buama is the Minister of Communications and speaks for the President for now. And Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh is MP for Mensha South. And Kakra is someone Collins. He is...
What did you say?
Kakra is someone...
You are boxing the
Is that the... Okay.
I hear you.
Right.
Yeah.
He is a legal practitioner and he's a member of the NDC. I'm Samson Ladi Anyamini. My outfit, as always, is provided by
he came as an
Latida.
MC.
Have a good afternoon.
No. You don't come here as an MC.
Oh, we'll be bullied. It's bad.